Thank you. My name is Ioan. You've heard the intro. That's me, essentially, a guy with a BSc and an MSc doing cybersecurity stuff. And people are actually telling me that this is probably not loud enough, but hey. We at Orange are one of the principal cybersecurity solutions provider in Romania. And this essentially means that during a 12-month period, I get the chance to toy around with a lot of logs, with a lot of data, lots of data. We provide cybersecurity solutions to more than 400 large enterprise customers, which again essentially means that my elastic deployments are full of stuff, interesting stuff, that I get to come over, correlate, do some nice graphs, and then publish it in a report that I'm going to essentially present today. A MSSP perspective on what has been the past 12 months is probably one of the easiest things to actually discuss in our national context here in Romania, in the sense that, unfortunately, there aren't so many venues that publish any, not necessarily any, but publish irrelevant data and relevant results as to what the context has been in the past year. You know, like what types of threats have been detected, what are the principal, I don't know, industries that have been targeted. So hey, here's the chance for us to do it. I think I only have like 30 minutes to do this, so I'm going to go to the slides and essentially discuss why the past 12 months have been a very rough year for cybersecurity practitioners and essentially for B2B customers of cybersecurity practitioners. What were some of the most interesting and relevant attacks and threats that we've detected in our perimeter? And of course, discuss predictions. And yes, I'm going to go over AI stuff because probably everyone has, at least at some point in the tracks yesterday and until now today, has discussed AI in cybersecurity. 2023 was bad. Was specifically tough on infrastructure. Mostly on industrial stuff, on industrial infrastructure. ICS was a prime target. Most things that could have happened in a bad way, they did happen in that bad way. Fortunate for us, for our national context, you know, the B2B customers of most of the MSSPs in Romania do have access to good MSSP services. So, although at a global scale, 2023 was a bad year, here in Romania things were not so bad. In numbers, actually in figures, and with a lot of cherry picking, because I did have to go through a lot of data to simply find five good things that had happened at a global scale, and of course, to some extent relevant to our national context, in the past 12 months. The volume of attacks, the cost of cybersecurity attacks, the use of crypto stuff like ransomware, the number of leaks, new 0 days, everything went up. 2023 was a specifically prolific year for 0 days. And ransomware, of course, is ever present, and 2023 was probably one of the most prolific years for APTs using ransomware to do their, business. But the cherry picking part, the ransom paid has decreased year over year. The dwell times for attackers has decreased by something like 2 days, from an average of 19 days in 2022 to some 17 days in most targeted infrastructures. New APT groups year over year, that's a number that went down. The mean time to detection and the mean time to mitigation decreased by 8% respectively and 1% respectively. This is at a global level. Of course, this is cherry picking, and it's supposed to paint a hopefully marginally funny picture of how cybersecurity trends are actually discussed in the industry. Everything is bad, but there are slivers of good things that pop up from time to time. Well, the context of 2023 and essentially of the past 2 or 3 years. Everything is off-prem. Everyone is moving their stuff from their data centers to cloud providers. This is a very important thing to consider when it comes to accelerating the migration from one given type of infrastructure to another. Because moving off-prem to cloud will probably require a lot of reconfiguration, a lot of new technologies in the stack, a lot of getting used to and formalizing and actually assessing the way to use the technologies. And of course, this means that there are a lot of internet-facing stuff through which your data is being consumed by your applications. There are a lot of new tools used by attackers, and this is something that we've seen in our perimeter, in the context of the infrastructures of our customers that we protect. New malware distribution platforms, a lot of ransomware as a service. I believe that this is a trend, and probably things are going to progress up to the point that ransomware will be probably something that you simply pay for. I mean, constructing and running a ransomware attack is something that you just have to click, set, and forget. This brings back not that happy memories of, like various low or high orbit cannons some 10 to 12 years ago when botnets for very unsophisticated DDoS attacks were available to hire for just a few $100s. And of course, geopolitics still plays a major role. Most of the APTs that we've managed to track in Romania, I mean, with a relevant activity in Romania, have some sort of political motivation and have some sort of political drive or political backing to their dealings. So it is probably sufficient to say that for most of these state nexus groups, cyber warfare is becoming the norm. Orange Business Services, this is an obligatory slide. My colleagues are probably going to, if I'm to skip this one, my colleagues are probably going to have some words for me. We do provide managed security services, like the whole 360 degrees deal, prevention, detection, monitoring, and response. 400 plus large enterprise customers, and we are now expanding to SMEs, to medium-sized customers, and we have some tens of thousands of assets in our security perimeter. We provide manage everything, essentially, from firewalls to detection, mitigation, and response. 2023 was a very prolific year if you are into ransomware. I've mentioned this, I'm repeating it, because it's, well, obviously visible from this slide. We've seen a large increase, 30+% year over year, of malware, of crypto malware targeting, or at least trying to exploit some of our protected infrastructure. DDoS is up some 80% over 2022. Again, this is just for Romania, for our own premises. But fortunately, 94% of these attacks have been classified by our very intelligent AI-driven, AI-based machines as opportunity attacks. And less than 5% are persistent attacks or targeted attacks. I know that this is not necessarily a good thing in the sense that there's still 5% of a lot of attacks targeting individuals and businesses. But again, we do well compared to other territories. Insider threats, less than 1%, and these are things that you probably can read about in, like local newspapers. Some of the ransomware that we observe through our managed security services, and again, this is probably best aligned with the global context. Logbit, it's all over the place, mostly to the entirety of 2023 and up till now. Present in some 30% of all detections, I mean, of all indicators. recovered from our security. Black Cat, numerous, seen trying to exploit some very old CVEs, but CVEs that are still exploitable, at least in Romania. Conti, the ever-present Conti family, distributed mainly out of Russia, as well most things are. And Klopp, this is a new one. We've seen it in the first half of 2023, trying to exploit the MOVEit file transfer CVE. These are just some of the highly visible observables that we've catch through our net. There are, of course, many others, but to a large extent, maybe 50+% of all ransomware attacks targeting the infrastructures of our B2B customers are aligned with these types of malware. The vectors and the outcomes are, well, yeah, everything is essentially phishing, right? Things haven't changed that much since, well, ever. 6 out of every 10 attacks are vectored to phishing. And we've seen things moving all over the place. Mostly emails, then you have social media, and then you have WhatsApp and SMS. But this is becoming a constant in most reportings done in Romania. Phishing is still a part of everyone's life, unfortunately. Spear phishing, and that's a bit interesting. Some 10% of all phishing attacks are targeted, in the sense of being specifically targeted against businesses mostly. We are yet to observe any attack targeting individuals, but as it is less common, but businesses are being specifically targeted with various spear phishing campaigns. And active exploits for vulnerable stuff, less than 1 out of each 10 attacks observed in our national context. When it comes to trends in how the bad people are actually conducting their attacks, Cobalt Strike, again, it is essentially dealer's choice, but everyone is using it. Ransomware as a service, we observed some, if I remember correctly, it was at least 17 beacons for such services actively being active in active use in Romania. Killnet, they're doing their stuff with DDoS attacks. Fortunately, most of their attacks are, not that disruptive, mostly messy and noisy. Mobile attacks, we've seen an uptick in this type of in this trend, and we've seen a move from SMS-based vectors to WhatsApp, because, well, everyone uses WhatsApp, and it's a mainstay for businesses and individuals alike. And of course, ransomware, as I've mentioned in my previous slides, some 30+% increase year-over-year. The attackers, you have to take this with like 8 or 10 teaspoons full of salt, because you know how these things usually go. But what we can, with some precision say is that the better part of the attacks that have been blocked by our MSSP services are stemming from Russia, China, and the US. And of course, Romania, that's an important vector because, well, the targets are in Romania. Things have not changed that much in the past year from the 2022 picture, but we did see a bit of an uptick in stuff coming from China as opposed to what we reported in 2022. We believe this is mostly opportunistic. It is because a main driver of those ransomware as a service platforms have been some Chinese outlets and some Chinese venues, mostly in the continental southern part of China. This probably explains the uptick. The attackers, I mean, the attacks coming from Russia are at a similar level with what they've been in 2022. The attackers. We use some very pretty much gray box black magic stuff to track the activity of some 13 APT groups with relevant activities here in Romania. I'm going to go ahead and say that those activities, although relevant for us as an MSSP, are not as disruptive as they are in other territories. So, yay for us. But we've seen some interesting movement from specific APTs in the past 12 months. Mostly the operators from China, from Russia, you know, like APT29 and Killnet, they do their high noise, low impact stuff, DDoS, again. I've counted the times in 2023 when I got to read you know, articles in the press mentioning that this APT group in China, I mean this hacker group in China, threatens to bring down the insert text here infrastructure in Europe. Banking infrastructure, electricity infrastructure, whatever infrastructure. They didn't manage to do so, but again, they are very noisy and they are disruptive in the sense that they make the proper waves in the media. We've seen some new APTs from China, this UNC 4841 trying to exploit some Barracuda email security stuff, some 0 days that were fortunately patched in our customers' infrastructures. And what we've seen as an interesting point, and this is merely a data point that has been confirmed over and over, starting mid to late October up until now, there's a lot of movement around trying to exploit the Cisco IO6C stuff. We've seen some 2,000 plus assets that are probably well, that are actually exploitable. And we've addressed some of these assets in the sense that we informed our customers that patches are available, and if the patches are not easily to be deployed in the specific infrastructure, there are workarounds that can be made. The targets. What are the targets? I've mentioned before, and as a poor attempt at humor, that we are using this very large AI with air quotes tool to derive the data that you see in these slides. Well, one thing that this machine actually does well is not just one thing, but it is one of the things that this machine actually does well, is to enrich the B2B customers' info with specific data related to the business vertical that they do their business in, and the region in which they operate. So we use a lot of the data that we have available from our fixed or mobile voice and data communication services provided to those customers to pinpoint their specific location on Romania's map for their given infrastructures, and we know with a very high degree of certainty that you know, the customer X is actually working in the, I don't know, retail sector. And this brings some very interesting data to the table. 2023, at least the past 12 months, so end of 22 up until now, we've seen a very, very large commitment of the attackers to target the the energy sector. I'm not sure why. So it's supposed to be. Oh yeah, it is. I'm sorry. So it's the energy sector adopted 31% of all the attacks detected and blocked in our our managed security services infrastructure. We do have some fairly large customers in this area. some of the largest players in this area are customers of some of our managed security services, and we can say with a high degree of certainty that there is a visible the trend of weaponization against industrial control systems in Romania, targeting the energy infrastructure. This is critical infrastructure. This is a pain point, and it will probably be addressed. I mean, I'm certain that it is being addressed as we speak by the operators, but this should be a more relevant topic for discussion when it comes to specific trends in Romania. So ICS, attacks against ICS of the energy business vertical are on the rise. By region, Dobroja was, no, it's actually Bucharest was the worst hit of all, with Dobroja coming into second. Again, this is geolocation stuff based on the destination addresses of the assets that are targeted. Bucharest has been for the past 5 or so years the principal target of most attacks, because, well, it is home to most of the largest companies in Romania. Dobroja coming into second, and again, Dobroja is an area that hosts a lot of business in the energy sector, right? Clean energy, nuclear energy, most of those things are there. If you'd like to get a bit more data on the topics that I've discussed so far, you can do that one thing that every security person tells you not to do, and scan the QR code, or you can just visit us at the Orange stand, and my colleagues are going to give you the details. And I'm not sure if we have it in print, but if it is in print, you can get a Business Internet Security Report, 6th edition, at our stand. In closing, and predictions for 2024. Should I go to the buzzwords first? I'm going to go to the buzzwords first. AI, of course, AI is going to be a big hit, but not necessarily generative AI. Not from my perspective. I don't see it as a clear danger or as a clear gain when it comes to either when it comes to the activities on either side of the fence. I see it as a helper, as an enabler for operational security. I see it doing a lot of work in at level 1, mostly level 1 stuff, right? A lot of triage, a lot of pertinent escalation, a lot of enrichment, but I don't honestly see it as a tool for major disruptions in the way that we do business in cybersecurity, not in 2024 at least. But we did see in the past year, and I think that this will be true for 2024 as well, we did see some use in noise generation and obfuscation, some use of AI. This is interesting from a research perspective, and we've seen some use of AI to diversify the TTPs of attackers. 2024 is going to be especially rough for ICS and IoT. I think ICS is going to be a prime target. The industrial control systems are going to be pushed and probed, and I hope that not exploited in the end. But again, ICS is going to be a prime target in Romania as well, but on a global scale. Mobile malware is on the rise because, well, evidently 90% of everything that we do on a mobile device, and mobile devices are ubiquitous, and they consist of most of the things that we have or we use to provide some sort of authentication or identity. And not at last, but unfortunately, it is probably the worst of the predictions. Cyber warfare is going to become the norm. And I believe that 2024 is going to be a year that will possibly shed some light on the large-scale state-sponsored stuff that is state-sponsored operations that are being run in Europe. And because there is a lack of normalization of response, I believe that this will only add, and empower the attackers to go about their business. We are at this point where anyone and everyone are aware of the fact that, state-owned or state-sponsored APTs are wreaking havoc across Europe and, well, across the Western world, and not only the Western world, of course, but there is a lack of normalization of response. Usually the response is highly politicized, as it should be, but again, there is no common ground and there is no common voice when it comes to dealing with such, cyber warfare activities. Thank you so much for having me. I really hope that the slides, which ended, of course, were at least, relevant for our discussion. Please visit us at the orange booth. It's right over the exit, and we can chat in detail about the things I presented so far. Thank you.